In dealing with the third person, remember that the third person is the person you are talking about, not the one you are talking to. And when talking about the third person, you would use the pronouns such as he or she, they, them, and so on. Again, you would use the name of the person or thing you are talking about. For instance, you would say, Anne is doing this and that. And when you construct a sentence, you would need to consider using either third-person pronouns or names as the subject or the object of the sentence. This we know. What I should make clear is that there is one pronoun for males and females in the Tswana language. As a subject of the sentence, the pronoun is o. There is also one possessive pronoun for both genders. Let us go through the pronouns, beginning with he and she. When using he or she pronoun as the subject of the sentence, you would make use of the pronoun o. This is how you do it. O aboa, he is coming back. O abala, he is reading. O areka, he is buying. Now, as the object, remember, there are two forms of objects: the direct and indirect. Without getting into too much grammatical details, let us consider the statement or the sentence, I sent her to him. The pronoun her in that sentence would be the direct object, the one to whom the action is directed. But indirectly, the action includes him. So the pronoun her will be the direct and him the indirect object. The indirect pronouns are preceded by the preposition to, as you can see on that sentence there. To him. So now, I sent her to him in Setswana would be ke mo rometse ko go ene. The word order, as you may see, is different. That mo between the pronoun ke and the verb rometse is the direct object. Go ene is the indirect object. This means they stand like this. Direct object he, indirect to him. Direct object he is mo, indirect to him is go ene. She is still mo, and to her is still go ene. Keep in mind, o is used for the third person subject. So o is the subject. It's like he or she. So here we are talking about the object, the receiver of the action. Now let us get some examples of direct object used in a sentence. O a morata, he loves her. Ke mo rutile, I taught him. Re mo rumile, we sent him. For indirect objects, how do we do it? Here's an example. Ke mo isitse ko go ene, I took him or her to him. Or it can be, I took her to him, I took him to her, whichever way. In the plural side in English, you would have they and them, representing the third person plural. We are going to look at how they and them in the Tswana language work. The equivalent of they in Setswana is ba, and them is bone as an indirect object and ba as a direct object. Remember what we said just now about the word order being different from that of English. In the first examples, we said mo represents him or her. It meant that instead of the sentence ending with the equivalent pronoun of him or her, as is the case in English, the actual pronoun comes before the verb in Setswana. Therefore, the plural of mo then is ba. So now, if you have to say they sent them, for instance, you would say ba ba rumetse go go ene, ba isitse go go ene. The first sentence means they sent them to him or her. They took them to him or her. That is the second sentence. This is done when the doer of the action is doing it for the third person. We can use finite verbs to illustrate that fact. Baba thusitse, baba buditse. Baba thusitse means they helped them. Baba buditse, they asked them. Now, while still at that, what if they did not do things for someone, but they just did something? Like they wrote or they sang. That would be like this. Ba akwala, they write. Ba kwetse, they wrote. Ba a opela, they sing. Ba opetse, they sang. Again, there is another question of third person and verb stems. Now, what happens if there is a verb stem before the verb? A verb stem is a little word inserted mostly after the subject, Concord, before the verb, to show the tense, the progress, and at times the possibility of an action. We have done some verb stems such as santi and seti. Let me remind you by playing part of those lessons. The equivalent of I already in the Tswana language is ke, se, ti, ke. So if you want to say I already did this and that, you would use the phrase ke, se, ti, ke in front of the verb. In English, you might put the already at the end of the sentence. I did this already. The phrase ke setse ke covers that as well. So both phrases can be translated as ke setse ke. Let us look at the following examples. Ke se tse ke si mo lo te. I started already, or I have already started. Ke se tse ke a mo kgetsi. I have already accepted, or I accepted already. Ke setse ke agile. I have already built. Ke setse ke utlwile. I have already heard. The equivalent of I was still in the Tswana language is ke ne ke santse ke ne ke santse ke. Remember, in one of the older lessons we dealt with the I am still phrase. The phrase was ke santse ke. If you align that phrase with the last lesson, I was, you will see how the two phrases relate. Now, let us look at the examples of ke ne ke santse ke. The first one is ke ne ke santse ke ja. Ke ne ke santse ke ja. Ke ne ke santse ke thuma. Ke ne ke santse ke roka. Ke ne ke santse ke palama. Ke ne ke santse ke kwala. There are other verb stems that we will do later. Remember, in the case of you, it would be o santse o. Now, in the third person, you would say o santse a. O santse a reka. O santse a bua. O setse a jele. The plural will be ba. Ba santse ba reka. Ba santse ba bua. Ba setse ba jele. I suppose that is just to show distinction between the two, or that function almost similarly. Remember, O is for you and O is for he or she. O. In essence, when dealing with the third person, remember, O is he or she